millions of people. 55 million people are under winter weather alerts today. 59 million are under winter chill alerts. The weather being blamed for nearly 50 deaths.
You might want to let them know they might need to know. Why is the weather?
Maybe
Somebody has to wake
when
up.
I start getting to May or June, it's, no, it was too late. Yeah, too much. As of now. But you wanna do it on Saturday morning, right?
Well, I guess the people can do
Yeah, I'm you everyone, but then I.
Yeah, exactly.
See, everybody.
Yeah.
Right, here we go.
I think we should get going.
Oh, I think everyone's great.
I thought we were just doing like 16.
Great.
I don't see
Last name.
This is adult.
Crazy, yeah, crazy, crazy, bolognese. Wow.
I don't know if this is working or not. Can we ask everybody to mute their computers, please? Yeah, you too, Karen. Thank you all for coming. It's 1 o'clock, and for those of you at home, you missed the snow. It's not as bad as they said it was gonna be, of course. That's the advertising business. We'd like to thank our Shelter Island people. We'd like to thank the people in the library, certainly. We'd like to thank Tim Pertel for helping us get this set up. And there are other thank yous I'm gonna make along the way too, but welcome. And Mary?
Go ahead.
Yeah, keep going.
Oh, keep going. Want me to start?
Yeah.
I've got a PowerPoint.
Who did I miss? Oh, Mary Morgan. I forgot to thank Mary Morgan. Mary did all the work this year. I did very little. Last year was a joint effort, but this year it was 99% Mary. I'd like to thank Dawn Carroll from the NFEC for her administrative help and understanding on horrible mistakes this week. And let's see, Sarah from the library and Jessica. All right, those are our two librarian people that helped us much. If you notice that we've got municipal people here today, employees, we've got municipal representatives and legislators, and Smith. Small business is not represented this year because of, we need to talk about that at some point. The idea that the business model may not work for small business, private equity. And we shoveled that around last year. I'd like to introduce the concept of private-public partnerships like ECIs and add another P to that this year. It's called philanthropic. So we're looking to incorporate private-public philanthropic partnerships. The civic associations, Tukwee-Turchin, and we have 11 total between the two towns now. So this is where we're going to be seeing grassroots efforts. We've got nonprofits. We have Beth Fateni online right now from Long Island Organics Council, Green Inside and Out. And another group called TALS, which is taking a lead on zero waste. We'll get into the discussion of that later. I'm also very excited that the Audubon societies are now contacting us because they don't want to be just birds. What they really want to do is get involved with extended producer responsibility because of the plastic issue, because of the birds, because of wildlife, because of everything else, because of us. And things like when I go to the grocery store now and see an English cucumber in a very large plastic wrapper, I'm really thinking hard about how the extended producer responsibility message needs to get back to a lot of people. Let's see. Volunteers, Gloria, of the year, the East Hampton food scrap drop-off, Suffolk Alliance for Pollinators, and Rewild Long Island. Is that it? No, there's more, right? Yeah.
Oh, yeah, but I'm a member, great.
Okay.
And East Hampton Town Energy and Sustainability.
There we go. Okay, yeah, so it's the environmental committees. Ann Smith will be talking about that later, about the work to get one of those in place in Southold. We've been kind of wondering when that would happen. I think, as I understand, the scuttlebutt is that you might even be a bronze level climate smart community when you submit the right paperwork. You paying attention, Jason? Good. Because we haven't got the bronze yet at Riverhead. So there's this friendly cooperation and competition that we're trying to develop as well. It's called co-opetition. It's a horrible word, but that's what it is. Made it up. Somebody made it up. So I guess that's all I've got for an intro, and welcome everybody. Is there chat or no?
I think there is.
There is chat.
There is chat.
Should we just go around and
Yeah,
introduce
please,
ourselves? I can start. Mary Morgan with Southold. I live in Orient, and and focused on South Hall, but now a member of Rewild, Long Island, North Fork, the new chapter. So,
Me? Oh, I'm Dawn Carroll. I live in Cutchogue, but I work for the North Fork Environmental Council.
Hi, I'm Kathy Durchin, president of the Greater Calverton Civic Association, and I do land use coordinator for Riverhead for the North Fork Environmental Council.
Hi, everyone. I'm Ann Smith, recently elected town councilwoman for South Old Town, and happy to be here and listen and learn.
Anthony Romano, I run ECI with, some help out in Hampton Bays. And then get to talk compost.
Subject, ECI. correct.
ECI,
ECI,
What is it?
Ecological,
Ecological Culture Initiative. That everyone did that.
I'm Jim Bertel, I'm head of the Town of Shell Island Green Options Committee.
Drew Dillingham, Town of Riverhead Engineering.
Jason Blizzard, Town of Riverhead Engineering Department, food scrap, sanitation, everything.
Bridge inspector.
Yeah.
Sarah Gordon from Sylvester Manor. I'm Charity Roby. I'm a member of the Green Options Committee, and I'm here reporting for the Shelter Island Reporter.
And Gloria Crazy, it rhymes with Daisy, Bolognese, and Crazy. And I'm here with East Hampton Compost, which is a collaboration between Rewild Long Island, which deals with sustainable landscaping across our island and compost, and the town of East Hampton Energy and Sustainability. So it's fun when you're on 3 committees and you get to make a collaboration between the 2.
we can get started with some PowerPoints.
Should we meet the people on
Oh,
Zoom?
sure, that's a
Yeah.
great idea. How do we do that?
It's 20 people, so do we want to do that?
You want to announce who they are? and who they are? Or can they write
We
it
could,
down?
we could do it. Everyone could unmute themselves for 1 minute and introduce themselves.
Can
And
we
then,
see them on the screen by some?
If you're good at changing it back. You're gonna have to deal with it.
I'll go first. I'm Margaret DeCruz. I'm on the board of Norfolk Environmental Council and part of Rewild and part of Audubon and everything else. I live in Greenport.
Great, Mario.
I'm Anne Murray. I'm with the North Fork Environmental Council, South Hold Land Use Coordinator, and I live in East Marion.
I'm Karen
Charles
Blumen.
Lehner in Manitowoc, also with the Environmental Council.
Who is that? Could you say that, repeat? yourself?
I'm Beth Haskell. I'm a resident of Greenport.
Beth Fitzhenny with Green Inside and Out and the Long Island Organics Council, and we worked with the town of Riverhead on their drop-off site.
I'm James Ewing from Watermill. I'm a micro farmer and I'm a member of the Southampton Town Sustainability Committee. And it's nice to see all of you here.
I'm not sure what the order is, but I'm Karen Bloomer. I started TALS, taking a lead on zero waste because nobody else was doing it. And I pulled Mark in as a co-convener, Beth as a co-convener. And we just had a psychologist join us because we've got to ask, zero waste in a consumer society? Are we a little nutty?
Hi, I'm Nancy from Riverhead and resident Riverhead, and just recently moved into a double wide in Riverhead and need to have less waste, use less plastic, less paper, and compost. I could do compost.
Great.
Thank you.
I'll go. I am Margaret Steinbugler. I'm a Southold resident and the vice president of the Southold Peconic Civic Association. Also involved with North Fork Pollinator Pathway, Rewild, and an Audubon member.
Hello, I'm Christopher Welch from the East Hampton Star. Thank you, Gloria, for the invitation.
Yay!
I'm Zung, or you can call me Dee. I'm with Rewild Long Island, and Gloria invited me, so I'm here.
Hi, Zong.
Hi.
Hello. Hello, I'm Susan Spear. I am a new resident here to the North Fork and I live in South Holt. So I'm interested in just learning more about what's going on.
Hi, I'm Sharon Kelly, resident of Cutchogue and also interested in learning what's going on.
I guess I'll. Hi, I'm Christina Cosentino. I live in Montauk. I'm a farmer and a medium to large scale composter. I co-founded the food scrap composting program at Sylvester Manor with Sarah Gordon, and I'm involved with East Hampton Compost. Thanks for having me.
Very exciting. I guess everyone can hear me, right, on the call?
Yep.
I guess we'll ask you to mute again so that there isn't any interference. I put together some slides just sort of to talk about, we convened last year. We called ourselves the Peconic Bioregion Alliance, we being Mark and I, and now we've added Beth Bettini from Long Island Organics Council. This is the second summit that we've had with town officials and people on different committees. Our mission remains the same: to divert residential food scraps 100% by 2030. And why do we want to do that? Our economy and our environment are the big winners. Allied together, we can advance community engagement. And it'd be good to share some information. We actually have a listserv, and I'm going to pass around an email for people who aren't on the listserv yet, to make sure that you'll get an invitation after the meeting. Okay, so why residential? A lot of us know this. It's the largest category in the food waste stream. The DEC has called it the low-hanging fruit. It's not waste, it's a vegetative organic resource. And towns are facing rising costs. It's costly to truck it away. The landfills are going to close. Is it December 24?
Yep.
We have a New York State mandate. Each town has that for town compliance. They have to meet a 40% reduction in CO2 by 2030. Diverting food scraps reduces CO2 emissions. And Mark and I calculated that full food diversion, which is 15 to 18% of the solid waste emissions, goes 1/3 towards the mandated 40%. So that's a big chunk the towns could just, meet by diverting food scraps from the waste stream. And there's grant money, resources for compost solutions. There's climate smart communities, and there's Rethink Food Waste New York, which Mark will talk about later. So maybe you've heard our Congressman Tim Bishop talk about our environment is our economy. I've heard him say that many times. I know that Mark and I have been talking about the East End is in transition to an ecotourism economy, which is ecological and sustainable. It's the fastest growing tourism sector. We still remain the heart of Suffolk County's $5 billion farming industry. We still remain in the top of their agricultural revenue producers. We have 40% of our land. We are 40% of Suffolk County with 9% of the population. We have 500 farms in Suffolk County, most of them on the East End. 1/3 of them are under 9 acres. And we are also the heart of the Suffolk County fishing industry. And I know it's more than 1 billion. I just didn't check the latest figures. But we have that 1,000 miles of coastline, very, very valuable to us, that our environment is our economy. So soil and water. So Mark and I have been talking about how do we get the public to and ourselves to learn more about the many ways compost benefits our ecosystem. It's not just enriching soil. The more I read, the more I realize it's a lot more than that. And we're proposing a panel of experts to educate ourselves and the public, maybe to call it something like soil and water, recharge, retention, runoff, regenerate, resilience, because soil aids water, filters water to recharge the aquifer. It aids coastal resilience, and it increases farming resilience. In the filtering to the recharging the aquifer, a study with ILSR said it filters out 60 to 90% of pollutants to the watershed. I mean, that's amazing. You know, more compost.
We're sharing the screen. right?
We're sharing the screen.
Shoot, I'm sorry. What slide were you on?
Did it not share? Oh my God.
Were you here?
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, I skipped your slide. That was my bad. What slide?
Oh,
were you?
no, that's about where you were.
That
You
was
on the
that's
next
it?
slide?
Okay.
So sorry, folks. I thought we were sharing the screen.
No, if you end the share, you have to restart the share. That's just
Do that
something you
for the
have
next
to.
slide deck, right?
Yeah, if you end the screen share, then you just have to restart it. All good, you can always grab me.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Okay, will it go to the next slide? Okay, so in Southold, a group of us have been working on continuing to do compost mini projects. We did the food scrap, 4 years ago, the food scrap, 30-day food scrap pilot with the town. We've also done little demonstration projects with the Peconic Land Trust. We had a tent that we called Food Recycle for Climate. And we asked everyone to scrape their plate and, well, first eat everything on your plate that you've taken from the buffet. And then what you possibly can eat, take home for lunch. And then see that tent over there, scrape your plate and bring your food scraps over to us, because we had, what, 16 farms lined up to take the food scraps for the, from the results of the Peconic. And we only had like 6 buckets, I think. It was a very small amount. People were really good about it. We did an event at the Orient Yacht Club, an oyster recycling for climate event. And the lady with the bucket is, it's filled with lobster shells, which we took to a local farm, and also Nurture, Stony Brook University's project, you'll hear about later, took some of the lobster shells too to experiment with. And then there's the East End Countertop Recycler Pilot, which we ran for 6 months with the Long Island Organics Council, which I'll talk about in a minute. So the results of the Southold pilot here, it was 30 days, 30 households. That's a picture of all of us with our bucket supplied by Slow Food East End. We had 100% compliance. So none of those people put their food waste in the yellow bag. They put it all in the green bucket, which they then brought to the town. And for 30 days, Mark and I and Sherry Philby took those buckets over to Treebrook Farm and dumped them into their compost. And everyone got a brand new clean bucket to use over the 30 days. So they just kept repeating the process. We diverted 1,000 pounds of food waste, that's 1 metric ton. If all of Southold diverted its food, all of Southold residents diverted their food waste, it would be 2 million tons a year. 2 million tons, or 5.7 tons a day, 2 million tons a year. And what we demonstrated was people were willing to divert their food scraps from the waste stream. They wanted a place to bring their buckets with scraps and make it into compost. They were shocked by the volume of waste they produced, and they committed to lower their waste. So then the results of the countertop pilot, which we ran with the Long Island Organics Council, we asked ourselves, if we offered a discounted food recycler appliance, would households buy it and use it? So 46 families signed up over the 6-month pilot. They received a 40% discount on the appliance, and which reduces food scraps 90% into a dry soil amendment. The average household was 2.4 people. They used the appliance about 3.3 times per week. The 46 households diverted 11,000 pounds of food scraps in 6 months, which is about 11% over the national average. And over a year, it would have been 11 tons. I mean, they continue to use their appliance, so they're going to continue to do this. So, you know, the town is going to, all the towns are going to, you know, receive those savings. What did we demonstrate? We demonstrated that people wanted, they want to recycle their food scraps, they want options, and they're willing to buy a discounted appliance. Okay. I'll read this one. Here we are. The survey, we asked, what's most important to you in using this appliance? And since I'm a user, I was not surprised because this was my favorite thing, easy and no mess. Second favorite was upcycling. Food scraps to, they liked upcycling their food scraps to a soil amendment. And the third was, they like contributing to climate stability, not methane. And the other three were, they help people be more aware of their food waste, that supplemented their backyard compost, and they liked it that the appliance used very little electricity. Do you want your town to run a program where more residents have access to a food recycler appliance? And I had to ask that question, and I was very happy to hear that 90% said yes, it would be great. One person said no, and the qualifier was they did not want their taxes raised. Do you want your local schools to have access to a food recycler for hands-on learning? 100% yes, good educational tool, use the byproduct in a school garden. And testimonials, more testimonials. I like the discount. I want to begin composting, incredibly convenient. It's a game changer. And I'm happy to say that participant responses will continue because here in Shelter Island Library, there's a food cycler available on loan. So we'll be getting continuing responses from people as they take it out on loan. Did they like using it? Yes, 90% liked using it. A third of them said they love it. And why join? In their own words, 70% said they wanted to compost, and 30% said for the climate. And I don't know if I'm on the right slide here, but there you go. Am I on the right slide?
Next slide, one after this.
One after this. I think I missed a slide. Okay,
Back to.
go back. Sorry. It's here, yeah.
Yay.
So these are typical responses, a brilliant concept. We use it daily. No mess, no methane. It's awesome. Somebody wrote from Orient. I like that one. Okay. And now we go to this, which is our partnerships. We're doing partnerships this year with, well, hope to do them with Rewild Long Island, Food Cycle Science, maybe Rethink New York, Food Waste New York, and Nurture. Mark, can you say a few things about Nurture?
I can't.
Can you?
Oh, Ben Shaw's thing?
Yeah, do you want to say a few words about that? What is it?
I don't know where to stand or sit.
I know, right?
It's an owl.
I don't want to sit on this because I know what's gonna happen. It's gonna collapse. Does this owl, so we've got a technology, is that good?
Yep.
All right, can't see my face, right? This is good. So there's a piece of technology here called the owl. It looks like an owl. And they're very expensive and but I think it makes me look fat. So one of the things we ran across a fellow in Stony Brook University, and he's got this, and it's in a closet. It's just like in a bookcase with glass on the front. And it's not very big. It's only about 12 or 15 feet long and 3 feet deep and 4 or 5 feet high. It looks like this Rube Goldberg thing in there. There's stainless steel tubes and copper windings and all sorts of interesting things. And what they've been doing is taking, they were starting with manure. Right, that's how it all started. And they're putting it into it's not nitrogen, but it's a non-toxic chemical mix. And out the back end, this is how much I know about this, at the other end is a liquid, a jello, and a solid. And none of them are contaminated with chemicals. They're all pure substances that when they get out. And there's compost at the back end. There is a liquid, like nitrogen kind of fertilizer, but it's not nitrogen. It's much better, of course, because that's what they do. They're the chemistry department. That's right. So, and the third thing is a jello, a clear jello, if you can imagine. And it's a planting medium. It's a seed starter. So you put the jello into your seed starters, which are only this big, right? These little whole trays of hundreds, right? And they drop it in there as a liquid. It turns into jello, and they stick a seed in there, and the seeds grow. So this is what they're working on right now, and we're trying to talk them into the idea of this is why we had them pick up the lobsters and the lobsters and the clamshells and all that, right?
Right.
Because we would like to see this, we're gonna talk about the dumpster as well, because most of these projects started with horse and cow manure. And what we're hoping is that they will find a way to make food scraps a part of this process. So that's what we're starting. We'll talk about that later, but we don't have the results back yet, but we're gonna have Ben talk to us probably by the end of the month.
Oh, great. That's nice.
Yeah, so we'll have something from them. And that's what the nurture system is all about.
So we'll invite you all by email if Ben offers a Zoom conference.
Yep.
That'd be great. I'm gonna pass around information on Nurture and also on Rethink Food Waste New York and their hotline, which is pretty valuable to anyone who is involved in a restaurant business or a town or a farm interested in getting free consultation and other services from this nonprofit in composting operations. So I'm passing it back to you, Mark.
Oh, what do you want me to do now?
I guess we move on to Gloria maybe, or any questions, I guess, at this point, and then we'll move on to Gloria.
Oh, there is a question about the material that comes out of the countertop.
Yes.
It's referred to as a soil amendment.
Yeah.
But I don't know that that's supported by science. I mean, does it kill pathogens? Are there nutrients in the material?
It's nutrients, there's no pathogens. They have a scientific paper that I can send you, Sarah, that is no
That's a
pathogens.
question that's been posed
Yeah.
to me, so I wanted to.
Yeah, definitely. But it's inert. I know that. It's inert. You can't like
If it's
grow
inert,
anything.
then it doesn't, does that mean it doesn't have any nutrients?
Inert meaning no pathogens and
No biological activity?
Exactly. Thank you. No life, right? No biological activity.
But it could be ideal. If it could be, it could still have nutrient.
Yes.
Yeah, it could be nutritious, but it's not gonna, I mean, compost.
It's not living.
It's not living.
It's
It's not compost, which is why they say mix it with,
And then,
yeah, 10 to 1 or 8 to 1 with your soil. And a lot of people, including my husband, are storing the dry byproduct in the basement in a tub for use in the spring. I'm like, why are you doing that? You know, you can just toss it into your compost pile. I mean, it's, and add leaves on top. But he wants to, mix it with the garden soil, and will add food, to the garden soil. But I can send you the material. Anything else?
Oyster shells.
Oyster shell.
Yeah, are you doing anything with oyster shells? You mentioned the lobster shells, but I didn't quite hear oyster shells.
Okay. We put the lobster shells and the oyster shells together because I personally wanted it was clam shell. I personally wanted them because we are trying to get rid of the mud hole that is in front of our driveway. Oyster shells are fantastic for that. So I pulled out all the oyster shells from those buckets and just gave Nurture the lobster.
Okay, okay.
But we're gonna do it again this year. We're gonna separate the oysters from the lobster or the clamshells. So it'll be a bucket of clamshells and a bucket of lobster. We'll walk around and ask people to dump their lobster in the bucket.
Yeah, is there anyone besides Nurture who's doing something with oyster shells or clam shells?
Well, oyster shells, we can talk to Cornell because they have a reef building program, and they have a way of having the oyster shells lose any pathogens that they might have on them, be able to put them back into our waters clean. They go through a process.
I
Yeah.
can speak to that. Sylvester Manor has a site where the Cornell Back to the Bays program is storing oyster shells to cure them for about a year after their restaurant life. And those are being returned to the bays to, to promote, ocean calcification issues and also create new reefs for oysters. And I think it's beneficial for scallops as well, although I'm not sure about that.
So we do the same thing with horse manure. We lay it out to cure for the same reason, right? So because you can't use horse manure, fresh horse manure on plants for the same reason. They've got pathogens in them. So we cure it, we lay it out and cure it.
And you were asking about lobster shell? Or, I'm sorry.
No.
No, just the oysters, just the oysters. Okay, great. Good. You're up. If I can figure out how to do this.
Let's see if we can figure it out together. In case I forget my head.
I went back to stop share. Now I find you, right?
That's it. On the left. Yep.
That one.
Yep.
Okay.
Right, and then turn it on to,
Share again.
we need slide, okay, we need slideshow.
And I know you have to share it again. Once we stop the share.
Okay.
That's share. There's
Here,
The request in the chat, by the way, could you share the screen about the percent of farms or land that didn't show while Mary was talking? But I don't know if Mary, you can share your slides afterwards with the group maybe, or something like
I'll do that.
that.
there's that.
Thank you.
Okay, if I make the slideshow, then people can't quite
Oh, I
see if I do
Well, that's
that.
very good.
And that, then we've got, is that good for everyone like that?
That's great.
Great. Super. Yay. Okay. I've done parts of this talk before and I started by asking the room who composts at home, and I'm not going to do that here because I'm guessing it's about 100%. And hopefully there are a lot of people in the audience too who are in the same boat. Let's see. So East Hampton, we started the community food scrap drop-off pilot after attending this meeting last year. Thank you all for your inspiration and especially Mary and Mark for being on my advisory committee. We met every Friday starting shortly after this and really helped put the program together. And Tony helped with that too. Thank you very much. Along with Kate Plum and a whole bunch of other people who are really cool. This is part of my spiel why Compost looked at everything from a financial standpoint, or started with the financial standpoint. So if we're thinking $1,850 dollars worth of food thrown out as an average in the United States per year in East Hampton town, that is over $20 million just in East Hampton town. Plus, then you have the recycling center where we pay about $110 for every ton of trash that is hauled. And if food is not recycled, we pay just that for hauling, and then there are the people to handle it, their salaries, their vacations, their workman's comp, all of this stuff. So it really, really, really adds up. Local impacts. So, oops, back one. So we're looking at at the east end, the South Shore, South Fork becoming an archipelago of islands within the next 50 or so years. And you've already seen that we've got massive amounts of flooding. These past couple of storms on the South Fork have been really devastating. We've got trucks of trash being hauled all across our island, and it's only going to increase with the closing of Brookhaven. So lots and lots of local impacts. We've had everything from flood warnings, what, in the past couple of days to, this summer, we had drought. Local solutions. So I'm really looking at what happens locally. How does it impact us? What solutions can we do? This is lovely Main Beach in East Hampton. Reduce, reuse, recycle, reduce being the most important part of the equation, but recycling has really good PR. So how can we start bringing people in? Recycling, they love recycling. So let's start there. And we want to work our way back into reuse and reduce. So what we're doing is really transforming food scraps into soil food. This is some of what we collected this summer. This is East Hampton High School. We are putting down compost and using the compost to make more nutritious vegetables. Compost helps to make for more nutritious vegetables that we then eat, and then we then become, you know, healthier, stronger ourselves. So it's a wonderful circular loop. And it's also, compost is also great because it mitigates flood and drought. It acts like a sponge, as everyone knows. It holds water when it's damp or wet outside, and then it slowly releases water when it's drought. So it's useful for so many reasons. Okay. So you'll have noticed that East Hampton Compost, our logo is the potato. So I've got a potato in most of these slides. And at the farmer's market, I would walk around and say, oh, can I chop your tops? And grab people and chop the tops off of their greens that they weren't going to be using, and explain, okay, you want to remove the top as soon as you buy your vegetables if you're not going to be using the greens, because it's just sucking water out of there at this point. I also had a sign at the table saying, ask us about the potato, because you have to tease people a little bit. Potato. Okay, it is the path of the potato. So we can start anywhere here on the right with East Hampton Recycles. So let's start up here with the beautiful, crispy, hot potatoes, because who doesn't like potatoes? Does everyone here like potatoes? Oh, yes, potato chips, yeah. So what we do is we take before we make the potatoes, we can then peel the potatoes, and we have options here. We can throw everything out. It gets transported to get burned or to go into landfills, or we have the option of composting. When we compost, then it goes back into the soil. It makes healthier, better potatoes for healthier people. And the side of impact that is really cool with potatoes, which is our crop locally, we're famous for our potatoes. Potatoes are pollinated only by native bumblebees. They are not pollinated by honeybees. And the bumblebees live in the soil. And the compost also lightens up the soil so the bumblebees can burrow into the soil where the queens live over winter. And then it goes back, they pollinate the potato, and once again, we buy the potato and make delicious potato chips or whatever we like. People sort of really got it. How can we, once again, make it local, make it personal to them? Path of the potato. Okay, how did the program work? We had 2 food scrap drop-offs. Our main one was in the Springs at the farmer's market. The secondary was in Sag Harbor. I was only going to start in Spring, but Mary Ann Eddy, who lives in Sag Harbor, said, I want it in Sag Harbor. Everyone wants it. So she was open for 2 hours every Saturday. Okay. We had, because we are a collaboration between Rewild Long Island and the town of East Hampton, the town helped a lot with smoothing the path. And I also had fabulous student volunteers, because Rewild Long Island has a summer program for high school students where they do all kinds of environmentally friendly, landscape sustainable things. They worked with compost. We did a lot of harvesting at Share the Harvest. We installed with Rewild a pollinator garden at East Hampton High School, and we also worked, yes.
And at ECI.
and at ECI, yes. Yes. Yep. So Rewild has this whole gardens program that works with community groups, and we provide the expertise and the plants and the training for local community groups to install a pollinator garden or a water garden, whatever they need locally, and then they maintain it for a couple of years. And we also had plant sale, yay, at ECI. We're looking forward to doing that again. It's a native, low-cost plant sale. So it's in a couple of locations across the island. So that's Savi, and we dumped the food scraps into an unused kitty litter base. And then we sorted the food scraps. We ended up putting them from once they were sorted, we put them into a bigger bin, and then they went into our own compost pile at East Hampton Recycling Center. And that's Abe showing some of our freshly dumped compost into our own compost pile. We developed a lot of information and materials, talked with a lot of farmers to see what they would accept, because we wanted to really look at what would be the most restrictive ingredients that we could apply that everyone would accept, because we weren't completely sure at this point, would the recycling center do it? Would farms do it? And we also wanted to look to the future to see, could we then apply it to farms? So it's just easier to do it once and done. So talked with a lot of farmers, what's allowed, what's not allowed. Got a lot of great handouts, information. There's the website for East Hampton Compost.org. And it's also I'm also doing the website for Rewild Long Island. So I'm about to have a whole compost resource page. Mary and I are planning that. Yes. And storage tips. Oh man, this was big, and I've got to work more on this. We got a lot of really gross stuff. As one of the high school students, Sophie said, I'm scarred after looking at some of the stuff they dropped off. It was sort of nasty. Keep it cool. That's a big one. We had a one pager of why compost, how does it contribute? Business cards. So when I was walking around the food farmers market, I was handing out business cards and basically accosting people and saying, what are you doing with your scraps, with your leftovers? Bring them over to our table, even if not today, next week. So there was a lot of interaction, collaboration. A lot of people were really, really, really interested in composting. And in summertime, actually, a lot of people who did compost at home, their compost was full. So if they were in a barrel or something like that, so they would sometimes they'd be composting at home and bringing me their compost because they just had so much. I also had a flyer on the food scraps, on the food cycler. Okay, so really expensive here, business cards, just put them out on page. We got lots of great press. And what happened with the pilot? Well, our weekly drop-off amounts started slow at about 56 pounds, and they grew and grew and grew. By week 4, we had 274 pounds. You'll see here also that we did not hand out plastic bins or buckets. I know it works really well for some groups. I actually did a pre-program survey where I asked, one of the questions was, when it comes to bins or storage, I have something at home I can use. I don't have something right now. Or the third potential answer was, I don't have anything at home and I'm less likely to participate if you don't provide a bin. And I said, okay, that third answer, that person is not my person, because it really takes some work and commitment to sort properly and to show up. So it was and I just didn't want to add more plastic into the world. So people used all kinds of bins that they had at home or bags. And then here's some of the growth we had. So we were chugging at over 400 pounds every week. And it grew and grew and then grew some more. So, and the high school participants just had a great time making the signs and tallying everything. It was more fun for them than, I think they actually liked some of the sorting too. What we did is in the kitty bin, we checked the compost or the drop-offs while the person was there, so they got immediate feedback,
Very good.
which was really, really huge. And we saw a really great decrease in contamination through the summer. We also did 2 mini pilots, one with the Surf Lodge. We did a dinner there where they collected their compostables from that one dinner. And that worked out pretty well. And also we did a Sag Harbor Farmers Market where the farmers, if they weren't composting, left some of their stuff. And we also worked with the florist after they put together some huge party. Okay, there was a huge learning curve. This was earlier in the summer, what we got. There's a lot of gruesome stuff. Oh, even the pits are the pits. And then by the end of the summer, we were getting really, really nice stuff. So it was great. But it was interesting because some people who joined later, they still had to go through the learning curve. So it really, time in the program really made a big difference and getting that immediate feedback. So there's a carbon offset. I tend to not talk so much about carbon. I'm trying to cast a really wide net. So I'm talking more about the health benefits. And as opposed to some people, if you say carbon or climate, their eyes just glaze over. So I do say it depending on the audience. So I'm really careful with that. What's the most important thing? As Mary had said, people, partnerships, and Mark had also said this too. What is the most important thing here? So these are some of the summer interns with Rewild. As I said, this was a collaboration between Rewild Long Island and the town of East Hampton. I worked closely with Kate Rogers, who was here last year, David Leese, who is now on the town board, Sylvia Overby, who has been replaced by Ian Calder Piedmont. So it's like, yay, another farmer on the board. That's great. East Hampton Sanitation. I am not a composter. I mean, I compost at home in a couple of different ways and I'm trying stuff. And I got a couple of different types of composters donated to East Hampton High School. So hopefully the kids will figure out the different ways and then also publicize what they're doing and then bring it home. So I'll work with them on that. So we did our composting at the recycling center. I'm on the Energy and Sustainability Committee. Ian Calder Piedmont was fabulously helpful. And at the East Hampton High School, it really helps to have the science teachers, the environmental club, the garden club on board. Mary and Eddie, Craig Frick at the recycling center, and that's me sorting in my driveway. That was the Surf Lodge drop-off. I got to do that. Okay, who are our participants? All ages. It really worked well to have something at the farmer's market because it's part of people's routine. They go every week. They brought their dogs, they brought their kids. It really, really worked. It was easy for people. People really like the ease of participation. And Mina here had the best idea for storing in the summertime. She said she and her family, they put their scraps into an ice chest with some ice in there, and that kept it cold. Some of it was gross, some of the stuff we got. Okay, but people used all kinds of bins, and I had one series of photos that I had posted where everyone was just showing me their bins so that, okay, show me your bin. Okay, we also had the perfect participation potato. So about halfway through the summer, there were some people who came every single week and they got a potato. Community support was really great. I'd never tried composting before. It's important for the environment. I'll see you in the spring. A lot of people wanted to continue this through the winter. We're seeing how we can do that. Garbage, it's easy, it's part of the routine. And then at the end of the program, I gave everyone some compost. It wasn't our own compost because it wasn't done yet, but I could take from the town's compost pile, and they were pretty thrilled there. So, okay, community participation, pounds collected, reduced contamination rate, reduced greenhouse gas emissions, and community support. Yes. Okay, what are we doing? We are looking at expanding the drop-off options. So we've been just on Saturdays. People want another day of the week too. So we're looking at Thursday, hopefully Amagansett. So we cover more area geographically. The hardest part is the volunteers, organizing, getting people, transporting the compost. So how can we decentralize composting? How can we help people compost in their backyards? Talk. And we're thinking, it's not easy, barrels, anything. I'm also thinking of are there any groups that meet every other week or monthly online to support people, ask the expert, dialogue, so that people can come in and get the information they need, ask the questions they have about composting in your backyard. Because an hour a week from a couple of experts or a couple of people who are really good at composting at home saves so much time and transportation. So how can we really get people composting? A lot of people asked specifically that
And I
question.
think we have the expertise. It's just a matter of,
Setting it up.
money really, and setting it up. I think, experts should be paid. I mean, I know Cornell charges. I mean, people who have an expertise.
I'd like to form I could get input on this, on how to run this, how to make it work. I can easily do it through Rewild Long Island, or somehow a collaboration, a partnership with different people, different organizations. So how can we get people doing that at home? There were the 2 high school students who had done something like that. They'd gotten cut rate barrel deals for people. So how can we build something along those lines?
Syosset. Yeah, Long Island Organics Council is happy to help. I mean, we do bi-monthly meetings to try to address people's questions, but we can try and step it up. We're all volunteers, but
Great, super. Yeah, let's talk and do that. And then extend outreach, real more education, making videos, stuff like that. So how can we just do everything from, 8 million topics we can cover? Okay. Once again, it was volunteers, partnerships, that's what it's all about. And there we go.
I have a question about the farmers. What did they say? And is there anything, ideas in the works for working with them this year?
Last year, Ian Calder, Piedmont, had said Balsam Farms would accept, but it was really a last drop.
Yeah.
If the town didn't recycle it, because it's, for the quantity they're doing, it is such a small amount, yet it would cause more headache.
Yeah.
And it's not easily accessible, and it's easier, honestly, to drop off in one location than it is to a couple of locations. It really is that volunteer time and the transportation that makes a big difference.
So you're going to be expanding, doing this, replicating your project again, maybe more more farmers markets and another day.
Yeah, it's hopefully looking at a couple of farms in Amagansett that have CSAs.
Great.
So being able to then reach out to the CSAs, get that participation, get that awareness, and go from there.
Great.
Yeah.
Great. And
Maria, I had a
Yeah.
question. The town of East Hampton, where exactly is the site? Like, was it a place that they already had as a recycling center or like a yard waste facility?
East Hampton Town has a whole recycling center and yard waste facility. It's actually a transfer station. They just sort and separate, but they do make their own compost with, because there's, as you can imagine, a lot of yard waste. We wanted to keep the food pile separate so that we could really monitor it and the ingredients that we were putting into it to see how it was working. So it's the same but separate.
I'd love to see more towns doing that. Sometimes we're getting pushback saying, even when they have yard waste facilities saying, oh, we don't want to convert it to accept food scraps, but see, we have examples that it's being done and it's happening upstate too. So thank you.
Yeah, there is a whole permitting process because food is different than yard waste, and so it's a real hassle.
Yeah, I know Riverhead's going through it.
And
Thank
everyone
you.
has a shortage of labor. It's endemic. So yeah, it is an extra hassle in a few ways. I'm here looking at the owl and talking to her. Boy, I feel silly. Yeah. Any other questions? Okay, backyard composting next.
Yeah, yay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Nice visuals. I really like
Yeah,
how you
this is-
captured many of the stages.
Thank you. The people were great. Okay,
Good.
what are we on
Maybe we
next?
need to help you. I need help me going to the next one.
Who's next?
Are you up at Riverhead?
Talk to the boss.
What?
Down? I go down. Did you stop screen share?
Oh, it's,
I know you have to stop
Yeah.
the screen share.
Yeah,
While
so
we're
this-
here, why don't I go back to that slide?
what
People
slide do you
wanted-
want?
People wanted to see the slide about the,
Number of farms.
what is it?
Number of farms?
Number of farms? Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, here we are.
That was it.
500 farms and vineyards, a third are under 9 acres. Third are 9 to 50 acres and a third are over 50 acres. We have over 40 farmers markets. And many farm to table restaurants. Just add to this list. I could have gone on, but that was the great thing.
Okay, well, make this one go away.
Okay, good.
Okay, turn that one.
Yeah, Mary, did the fishing community involve or incorporate kelp as well, or just?
I should have reached out to Cornell for their most
Okay.
up-to-date information. That was several years old.
Is that
All
it?
right.
Yes, that's it.
Forward, backward. Okay, we'll do. Okay, we need to do share again. Share screen, I want to share this one. Move this over there. And move this up and over.
Someone wants to ask a question. If you want to ask a question, unmute yourself and then you could just ask.
Cool.
Yes, hi. Quick question on the composter, the counter composters. What is the cost for that? Do you know?
Was a 40% discount. The one that was close to $600 came down to 3 something. And the one that was $400 was 2 something. I could find that out.
I was just curious.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You know, I have a question. In terms of the compost, have you thought of one of the things we're trying to consider for the island in reducing waste is manufacturing and turning waste products into products for sale. And Mark had mentioned at one point something like a Peconic bioregion compost that you might prepare for sale. Has that been discussed any further?
Well, I
either,
guess
either
you
at
said
the
my
town, either at the town level or at the volunteer level, to actually turn this into a product that would compete with others.
Yeah, let's wait for Tony from ECI to talk about that business plan, Karen.
Okay, great. Yeah.
Jason's kind of shrinking from that question because, getting the municipality to do something like this is a bit of ways off yet.
Okay, great.
All right, so hello to everyone. I'm Jason Blizzard, Town of Riverhead Engineering Department. So to kind of just give you a start, the picture on the right is our compost pile. That's actually the phoenix out of the ashes. I'll get to that later on. But yeah, so then this is actually the first picture of this is the day of our launch. We had 2 bins. We started with 2 bins and the signage. So this is to kind of go through the pilot. So the pilot started firstly with our solid waste management plan. Town of Riverhead put out a solid waste management plan, and as part of that, we had a 10-year plan. And part of that plan was a food scrap recycling, drop off or collection. So with that, right about that time, Mary and Mark had just finished their pilot out in Southold. And then Mark and the Town of Riverhead Environmental Advisory Committee approached us and wanted to basically hit that point on our solid waste management plan. So after all that, with a lot of organization, a lot thanks to Takwi with Galverton Civic that helped us out a lot with getting the word out and things like that. So to kind of go through the pilot, we started on August of 2022, ran for about 3 months, November, roughly around Thanksgiving. We had people come into our program throughout it. We never shut down enrollment. The pickups were yours truly and Drew Dillingham, both picking up on Monday and Thursday in a town pickup truck with 5-gallon buckets. We did use some of the buckets that were used in Southold with the Gamma Seal. That actually worked out really well with the pilot. And then we went to good old Home Depot buckets as well, which works just as good. So with those food scraps, the part of the program was 10 residences, 2 restaurants. 3rd restaurant was they would provide, then wouldn't provide, so we just kind of left them out of that one. But yeah, we had 2 restaurants on a very consistent basis, and the biggest one is our Riverhead Senior Center, which provides Meals on Wheels for all our senior citizens, our residents, and that was actually a big thing, especially with climate smart communities, because that turns out to be 100% of municipal food scraps diverted, because that's the only thing that we create. So, and with that, the results of the pilot was over 2 tons of food scraps diverted, with just 10 residences, 2 restaurants, and the senior center, which really wasn't that much. So I'm just gonna kind of go through it quickly, not to go, leave anything out, but with that, after our pilot, we kind of were throwing the idea around of pickup, actual curbside pickup to our residents. Thinking about it, with me being, or us being the only actual transportation. What's from this? Nice.
I'm an engineer, but I can fix it.
All right. Don't know if it's gonna go back together. Right.
You can mute that.
All right. Sorry about that. Okay.
You want to play with that while you're
Yeah.
speaking?
Okay. So, sorry about that. So with that, we were thinking about the curbside pickup, but the big thing behind it was Mark that had taken a visit to the village of Scarsdale a few years prior, and they had set up a food scrap program that was very, very successful. So with that, we took a visit to Scarsdale and kind of got the idea of what they were, doing and what worked best, and tips and tricks and stuff like that. So with that, after the visit, we kind of saw everything that they had, and it was a really great recycling facility. They had many other different types of recycling that we didn't even think about. Tennis balls, glasses, books, textiles, all that kind of stuff. The paint was another big one, which we, you know, now New York State has launched that whole program. But anyway, the one thing that was big with them was registration for their residents. So basically to know who's coming to dump their food scraps here. And the biggest thing with that is with the email address that's set up at compost at Town of Riverhead NY. That is a big thing because if there's any signs of like contamination, or let's say people are just forgetting to not put in, you know, the little sticker on their banana or something like that, you can send out an email just as a reminder and just say, hey, you know, everybody who's now dumping food scraps, just remember, peel your stickers, you know, try to do that stuff. So we've kept a close eye on quality and really haven't had much. Today was actually the first day I went there and we had a potted plant inside of it. So that was it. I pulled that right out and that was really the biggest thing. So in order for us to kind of, I will fix it. I think Mark fixed it. All right.
I'm just joyriding. Be gentle, be gentle, gentle.
He has a baby, he knows.
So, with that, Mark and, had brought us to, introduce with Beth, with Greenside Inside and Out, and she actually had a grant from New York P2I, Pollution Prevention Institute. And she initially approached Huntington, that basically turned her away. So Mark kind of brought her to our attention and the rest is history. So with that $20,000 grant, we were able to purchase the 15 toters that are now located at our drop-off location. That was about $5,000. So any money for us is like huge. We had no money to start with, so this was our only money that we've had. So with that money, we also purchased the signage, which was English and Spanish. It gave the email address for the composting. It also gave all the accepted and non-accepted items. It was great because we actually had a sign company in Riverhead donate half the sign, which was just a really nice part of it. And Beth and Judy and Takwi and Mark and everybody that have been in part of the committees has been the biggest thing of community outreach. They've been the biggest part. We've had flyers go out to 800 students in Riley Avenue Elementary School. That was during our pilot, so that was, you know, a really good show of how much we can actually get out to the community. So, without further ado, we became the first municipally operated food scrap drop-off location on Long Island on May 11th of 2023. So as part of the Riverhead drop-off program, our drop-off site, as you saw, has the two signs. We have both in English and Spanish. We now have, that sign only showed you two, but in our learning process, we had 2 to start, but now we have a total of 15. The biggest thing is also compostable bags. Some people don't like using them. We have an option to use them. We have them. A lot of people, what I've came to realize is that there are different certifications. So BPI certification doesn't mean that it's all end all be all. BPI certification can be for commercial composters only, or there's also another certification on compostable bags, which is OK Compost, which typically sometimes that will have a commercial and backyard, but OK Compost is usually okay to compost in your own backyard. So it doesn't need to be commercially degraded or anything like that. BPI is usually, they call it, I forgot the exact terminology, but it's basically when it breaks down, it does not leave any kind of remnants in the soil. So it's, the BPI certification means that it doesn't leave any kind of traces of plastics or anything like that. So with that, as part of the site also, what a key thing that we learned, which people have actually thanked me for, is a garbage can there. So any kind of plastic bags that they bring, dump their food scraps in, they don't put the plastic bags in, but they dump them in the garbage can that's located there. So many residents have thanked us for at least having that there to have the option so that they don't have to take that nasty bag back into their car and bring it back home.
So that came from public feedback, right?
Yes.
We're always listening to the things
Yes.
that people tell us,
partially Scarsdale, and people did definitely want, we noticed actually people were just leaving garbage there, so we kind of went ahead and put the garbage can there. The one other thing is that we always have 5 bins in use, so even though 5 bins can fill up in the time that I may not be there to actually empty them, we have the next 5 in line, so we just pull those out and put the new ones out. What we've actually kind of refined is now we're gonna look into maybe pushing only 2 or 3 bins up front, because now 5 bins, we're getting 1 bin full, this one half full, this one just with like, you know, a pumpkin in it. So we're starting to like push forward 3 bins only, so then those 3 will fill. And then, the idea is to just turn them around rather than, you know, having them ready to go. So, but without, the total as of today, we have diverted more than 20,000 pounds of food scraps.
Zowie.
So another interesting part of that was, we presented at the TALS meeting back in September, and we were just over 10,000 pounds at that point. So from September to now, I think it has to do a lot with Thanksgiving and the holidays and everything. So we've almost collected in those 3 months equal to from since we've launched. So it's kind of interesting. I compared it to methane just because I think that's a little bit of a better idea. You know, that equates to 76,000 pounds of methane prevented in our landfill. So on Long Island, it's different because we're diverting it from incinerators, so we're not burning it. But methane is typically roughly around 80% more potent than CO2 in a 20-year time frame. So when I compare it, if it breaks down in 20 years, methane has 80% more potency than CO2 does.
Oh, someone is asking, what's a toter? Those are the 64-gallon big bins, those green bins. They call them toters.
To add on to that too, the green is another key to food scraps as well. So there's, you know, nomenclature around each of the colors. So like brown is certain papers, right? Cardboard and paper. Yeah, green is food scraps. So actually, when we first started this, so the bins that we initially ordered were supposed to say food scraps only on the front. What we decided to do was put a Riverhead Recycle sticker with a blue recycling, and when we actually had a meeting with Scarsdale, they actually brought it to our attention, which was a really good point. Blue recycling means true, you know, commingled plastic and metal, rather than like a green recycling, which means food scraps. So just trying to keep that stuff straight is very important. Yeah. So. Yeah, so as part of the whole program, we set up the whole website and everything like that. This is a look at our website right here. So we basically have a little blurb that says, you know, why recycle food scraps. We have our flyer, which Beth and Long Island Organics Council helped us out with. So we have both in English and Spanish. There's a bunch of links there that they can click on. There's an informational video that actually Judy Greco created. So we have a link there that can kind of just give you the idea of, you know, what's going on, why we're composting, and what benefits it has. To the right side of the screen is actually our registration page. So as you can see, it's very quick to get to our website. You can please register here, click that link, you throw in your information. And then we later on added a little question for yes, no, or maybe for purchasing compostable bins at cost to our residents. That was a suggestion from Scarsdale, and Gloria mentioned that, but the bins seem to be actually a little bit of a way for us to get in the door. Where we thought initially, so Scarsdale really helped us out. They gave us an initial set of them for us to kind of see what our residents would do. And it turned out that we had a countertop composter, which was made by SureClose, and then we had an 8-gallon one where they could keep that in their garage, so they could take the countertop one, dump it in there, and then take that one to the yard waste facility. Turned out that we thought we were only gonna sell like just the countertop ones, and that's all people wanted. It turned out that we sold out the entire full starter kits with everything, because they were like, I'd rather not get a new bucket. we do not try to sell them to my residents at all. I try to tell them, if you have a bin, if you have something else that you can use, please feel free. You do not have to purchase this. It's only just to try to get you involved in the program. See if you want to be able to have something on your counter that doesn't really stink, too bad. So, I tried that out and my wife threw one of the composters right out in the shed. So that one went right out. But this one is a very good one. Keeps the smell in. Everything is very good, with these bins. So yeah, that's kind of how we are with, and then the bins also, I kind of see people either bringing them completely empty without compost bags, even though they got compostable bags when they first started. Some people, residents tell me that they hate them, they think that they're plastic, so either way is completely fine. Either way, the bags seem to be breaking down very easily. We don't have to have really any issues. We've been kind of at the caveman level where we just kind of mix the browns and greens on the ground, and the bags have been breaking down really, really well. So, yeah.
You also have those lion bags in the toters.
Yes, we have the 64-gallon compostable bags inside the toters, so those are actually a little bit easier to use when we actually unload the toters and everything like that. This is a little glimpse of our flyers. This is what went out. We did it front and back, English and Spanish. We have a QR code that leads you right to our website to get to right to the registration page. Yeah, and Taki's actually mentioning, we were in the Riverhead Recreation magazine as well, the mailer that went out.
Yeah, got great press. It was awesome. And we went to the farmer's market at the East End Institute to promote it. Yeah.
Yeah, so this you can kind of see, this is our evolved yard waste facility, drop off location. So you can see the recycling sign, as I was talking about earlier, the bags, and then that is our compost pile. So what happened was our initial compost pile, we had set up on one side of our yard waste facility, which is where all residential yard waste comes. So any kind of pickup from our carter comes there. Unfortunately, we had our highway department snoop around and mess up our entire pile, so that one went. And now I call this one the Phoenix, so it's rising out of the ashes, and now that we finally got a full staffer at our yard waste facility who has a little bit of a, upstate kind of farm feel, so he is kind of helping us out with everything, and he knows certain things to do, when to turn them, and things like that, yeah.
Nice.
So it's actually it was actually a really good addition. So just to kind of move along, this is our presentation to Riley Avenue Elementary School. Yeah, this was with Beth and Francesca and Mark and all of us, and we presented to little fourth graders over at Riley Elementary School. Got them really excited about compost, so the yard waste
You
facility.
were so into it.
Yes, they were, especially the worms.
The worms, they love the worms.
Yeah. But yeah, it's actually really interesting because this elementary school is right around the corner from our yard waste facility. So if anything that we wanted to do, we can really grasp the school district because we're right around the corner. We are pretty spread out as a school district altogether. So to kind of lead into that, one of the options that we had was to start picking up from the school. So our initial meeting was with the superintendent. We kind of gave him our idea of what we wanted to do. And we started with Riley Avenue Elementary School. So we talked to the food service director there, Keith Graham. He's great help. So we started with that. And once we had that meeting, we kind of set up the idea of, well, how are we going to get the food scraps all the way from, basically, I have to drive from my office all the way out to Calverton and then pick them up and bring them around. So it turned out that we actually got really lucky where the school district actually has a truck that goes around to every single school basically once a week. So it turned out to be exactly what we needed. And the food program director is totally behind this. He wants to help us as much as we can. So we started picking up for, I think, 2 weeks from Riley Avenue Elementary. I was going to the high school to pick it up. And he all of a sudden one day looks at me and said, "Do you want to start picking up from the high school?" I said, "Sure, why not?" So ever since then, we've picked up from the high school and we're at about, I think we're over 1,000 pounds already, and we only started them in September, roughly around there, somewhere around there, so.
Back of house, that's the kitchen.
Correct, only back of house. Most of the stuff that we're getting is like coffee grinds, old bread, you know, some trimmings, because they don't really prepare fresh food compared to our senior center where it's, you know, chunks of onions, heads of, bottoms of lettuce, heads of carrots, watermelon, rinds, all that kind of stuff, because they're actually preparing food for Meals on Wheels for our residents. So without further ado, we'll kind of move on to our next like evolution of composting. So like I was saying with the caveman idea behind it, where we're just kind of mixing stuff on the ground. This is more of an idea with Mary and Mark brought a gentleman named Tim Shuttleworth. He's out of Erie, Pennsylvania, and he started this this composter called the Dunkster. It was based upon an issue with horse manure. He had an actual issue with his neighbor who was dumping horse manure, and he had a pond that he had an algae bloom and everything like that. So he decided to create this. And what it does is the typical pile that you throw on the floor, on the ground, is more like a pyramid. So you have different pockets of airflow throughout the entire pile that you have. The idea behind this is basically you're loading your browns and greens, whatever ratio that you have, typically 3 to 1. In this case, it's all horse manure. But for us, this is the first time he's even trying anything with food scraps. So this is really kind of the first time that we're doing this. So the idea behind it is that these pipes that are running along the bottom, the blue pipes, have air holes on them, and what it does is it creates that airflow at a more laminar, so it's more uniform throughout the entire process, throughout the entire pile of compost. The biggest thing with this is that it is extremely cost effective. He sent us all the pipes, the blower. All we needed to do was just have electric there. An option down the line is obviously solar, which he has that option. We don't need that right now because we're running it at our yard waste facility. So what happens is you put the pipes on the bottom, fill it with, we did it with wood chips, like really coarse wood chips, like almost like shreddings. Put the pipes in, we put the shreddings on top, and the air holes are actually through the bottom, so they flow out and up. And that's why nothing really on top of the pipes will affect the airflow. Keep temperature on it. I think it's the way he's recommending it right now. We're not at the full compost point right now, but we're at the point where we loaded it. So the way to explain it the best is that it will give you compost in basically 3 weeks. That's the idea behind it. So you load it 3 weeks, you're done. Compared to a regular pile on the ground where it's 90 days. And you may have certain parts that are hotter, maybe breaking down a little bit differently. So it's the idea behind this is almost like a set it and forget it, that kind of thing where you just kind of dump your mixture in, you set the blower. When you first set it up, it's a whole process where you half and double the time on and time off for the airflow, depending on what temperature you're getting. So if you're cranking up too hot, then you want to add, you double the time of your airflow on and then less time off. So, and then the same thing goes when you start getting colder, you want to let, that airflow kind of level itself out and come to an equilibrium.
Jason, I know
Yes.
Tim was saying this is like, no rodents are attracted to it. It's very, it's very easy to use. I don't know.
Yeah,
He has
no,
a
it's.
lot of positive things to say about it.
Yeah, it definitely takes some grunt work, you definitely gotta put some muscle in behind it, because when you're loading in the pipe, so I would like to say that no one size does not fit all for this program, and especially for Riverhead, because like I said, we're using all our residential leaves and, from those pickups. So, the idea behind this is that for us specifically with the bins that we have, we're not, even if we had 15 bins filled, we may not actually get to the point where we can fill a 20-yard dumpster yet. So that we thankfully got a dumpster from Crown Recycling, which is right next door to us. And that's a 20-yarder. So what we kind of thought about, because I wanted to be able to kind of fine tune the recipe as one option. And then also I wanted to start really composting, because I didn't want to wait the idea behind it is you're supposed to load it, put a layer of like finished compost, cover it, and then that's the way it's supposed to go. For us, it would be that we would fill it, wait for however long, it could be another month before we get a new load of food scraps. So what we did was we actually cut it into threes, so we put a cell in the middle, so there's only composting on each side. So now we filled the first one right at the blower, and we're at the point where we can almost add the layer of compost to cover it and start doing that. So, yeah, it's definitely a grunt work to start, you know, and then once you're done, these pipes, so basically after the 3 weeks or whatever time frame you have for compost, these blue pipes at the bottom are attached with a steel cable, and a steel cable gets hooked up to a tractor or payload or whichever, and you hook those on and those pipes come completely out. Close the door and now you have 20 yards of compost to go wherever you want, basically. That's the idea behind it. So, I mean, he's setting these up at state fairs and everything like that, so it's definitely working.
And that's a lid on top, right?
Yes, this is actually a picture from him showing, one of his operations with the lid and everything like that.
So you're gonna use this for like 6 months or forever, or?
Yeah, we're gonna see how it works out. That's the key thing, you know, especially with losing our compost pile, we wanted to do a give back really. And if we can get this done in 3 weeks, you know, that would be the ideal thing to get compost to our residents, especially since they've been waiting for now. You know, it's gonna be almost a year, so.
Plus it gets rid of the winter problem, where it would take, 3 months to get finished compost.
Exactly. Yeah, he said even in the winter, I think it's max like 6 weeks, so that's still significant.
What is the price ballpark on?
The dumpster, I wanna say his rental, I think is like $90 a month, but you can buy it outright. I think it's not that expensive. I'm not too sure how much it was, but it's extremely cost effective. It is, and you can set up multiple at a time. It's not like you can just set up one. So this is kind of what we've set up. So this was our buildings and grounds guys setting up the one cell inside. It was actually it was a whole day ordeal just to build that one cell so that we had enough support to be able to compost on both sides. So these are the cables that I was talking about at the bottom where, you know, once you're done composting, you open up the door, pull those out, and then this whole manifold on the top comes off as well. So that's our officially loaded dumpster. And yeah, that's basically where we're at.
Can I ask a question? This is so cool, by the way. Like, wow, everything you guys are doing. Congratulations. It's so inspiring. My question is, Jason, what your thoughts are in regards to persistent herbicides?
I mean, I don't really know how to answer that question. Do you mean like people using herbicides and stuff like that in their, or are you asking about like things that people are buying at supermarkets and stuff like that with herbicides?
In your feedstocks, that like in the materials you're putting into your compost. So actually, I guess it's a two-part question. What are your brown materials? Where are they coming from? And in the case of the dumpster, in the horse manure and bedding.
So, yeah, so as far as we have not gotten down to the nitty gritty of actually trying to focus on our recipe yet, because like I was saying, you know, we're almost at the caveman level. So once we get to that point where we can actually produce compost and actually have the idea to possibly down the line, maybe a couple of years down the line, maybe start selling the compost, we don't know. But at that point, that's where we would really start worrying about where we would realistically get Cornell Cooperative Extension involved, and they would be the end all be all to kind of say where we've kind of learned that with Roanoke Lavender Farm, and other farms in the town where they basically don't want to even entertain it because unless they're hearing it from Cornell, who's like, basically, the gold standard. Exactly. So we're not at that point yet, so I'm not really too worried about it, but to answer your question with our feedstocks, the leaves are all from our residents. It is residential pickup, and it's also our residents that come and actually drop off loose leaves there. We have also branches, all that kind of stuff gets brought to our yard waste facility. So those are some of I've tried to steer away from using the residential pickup because not only the brown bags, I'm nervous that they're not gonna break down. There's a lot of like street debris that comes in as well. Wrappers, cigarette packs, all that kind of stuff. So I've noticed that some of the scoops had that in it and I just was trying to avoid that. So a lot of it is loose leaves that are getting actually hand picked and hand dropped by our residents.
Thank you. It's so cool. It's like really, really impressive, everything you're accomplishing. So thank you so much for sharing it.
Thank you.
Just, I have a question, and yes, I agree, it's inspiring what you're doing. In terms of, I mean, obviously you've got good community buy-in if you're producing that, that much compost. When people are coming to drop off, what else are they doing other things at the drop-off area? In other words, is that part of their weekly ritual? Is there a habit?
So certain people, yes, and they actually get very excited with their weekly ritual that they're coming, to drop off their food scraps. Over the summer, we had, people going to the beach, literally in their bathing suits, dropped off their food scraps and went to the beach. So to further your question, as part of our registration, we currently have over 70 people registered. So that's big, because with the start of this, which is a key thing, and Mark will agree with me, is that we're going for the people that actually want to do food scrap composting. The people that are saying, I ain't doing that, never, I'm never gonna do that. Those are people that we worry about later on. We're not trying to target them right now, because they're gonna be the hardest people to get. We're getting the people that really wanna start getting involved and even people who are curious about it. So yeah, we do have, right next to our yard, our food scrap drop off is that big container, which is our e-waste bin, where all our residents can drop off e-waste there. And then obviously yard waste. So yard waste is an actual annual pass or a day pass. So it's actual true residents that are coming there and always getting basically exposure to this drop off location and learning about where exactly it is. So, yeah.
Jason, so I work at a home that doesn't compost. And so I brought a countertop bin and I talked them into allowing to do whatever I'm doing to go in there. My coworker wasn't expected to, but they do now. And I always have to check for contamination before I compost at home, but when I'm at that location, I'm like, well, there's food here, so let's do the drop off thing. And so I'll go every Monday, hopefully by 3, otherwise I have to hold on to it in the freezer until Thursday. And I've run into people who were just going there just to food scrap drop off from Wading River, which is a significant western move in Riverhead Township, and they come only to do food scrap. So that's a big commitment.
Yes, yeah, people are very committed to this. They actually have the want to go and drop off food scraps and everything. Yeah.
And for your, oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
For your bags, you allow only the OK compost?
It's BPI certified, but OK compost as well. So we initially, our initial set of bags was from Nature Bag, and that was a Canadian company. The shipping out of Canada was insane, so we decided to I just started shopping around and I found BioBag. BioBag is a US company. They're very well known. They have a lot of different options. They also have a very aggressive pricing plan where municipalities, they actually jump you up to like cheaper pricing, and then it's like bundles and stuff. It turns out to be, when you start selling it to the resident at cost, they can't even beat it on Amazon. Like literally bags are like 8 cents. On Amazon, they're almost 15, 20, 25 cents a bag. So we're actually getting it lower price than you would get for our residents straight up. Yeah.
I'll go on your website and find out how you handle those sales. When people drop stuff off into the 64-gallon green totes, how do you then transport the tote from the drop-off location to the pile?
So it's a lot of grunt work.
Rolls it on his shoulders. I think
Yeah, so we take, I was saying I have a yard waste facility person that is now full-time there. So me and him literally take each side of the bin and we dump it into a tractor or a payloader. Hopefully we get one. But yeah, we dump it in and that's basically the grunt of it. We take those bags and they stay pretty, together. And originally we were driving them up, there's like a up on the hill and we drive into basically another, we're still in the same site, same facility, but we mix them up top so that it's basically away from residents so that they can't just go around and start, messing around in there because we're obviously composting it. So, yeah, but that's how we get the grunt work.
I think Scarsdale has
Payload.
yeah, whatever it is, that they can attach the
Yes,
bin
they have
on
the
and it
arms
flips
too.
in.
So that is a commercial, a facility that actually comes and picks them up and has the little arm, that's the
Okay.
bar that's in the front too, where they were saying that a lot of, headaches came from initial, like the commercial pickup because they beat the crap out of the bins, like they literally,
I
I
see,
think
they
it was like a
yeah.
couple of months that they were almost, they got good at fixing them, but that was one of their big hurdles that they had where they needed to, figure out how to keep the bins forever, not replace them because they're not cheap either, so. Yeah.
And when how do you keep people who aren't registered from just dropping out with food scraps in there?
So we're not necessarily discouraging people. We are trying to, if they want to be involved, we're just trying to educate them. So like anybody that I see when I'm there, I always say, are you registered? Do you have any questions? Do you need anything? Is there anything that we could do that's better, or anything that we can provide you? And most of them say no. They say sometimes more signage at the facility just to see exactly where it is. But once you've been there once or twice, you kind of know where it is. So, yeah. But yeah.
I just see how much wish cycling there is in East Hampton.
Oh, yeah.
That, what is the contamination rate like? How do you go about checking?
So we haven't really had much. So one of the biggest things is actually when we actually dump them into the tractor, we're actually able to rip some of the bags and actually see what is on the bottom. It's not like we're just, blindly dumping it in. I really haven't seen much. I mean, I'm not to the point where I'm actually looking at, picking out bananas and peeling them because they're 64-gallon totes. So at that point, we were more of a caveman situation, like I was saying. But one thing that we're also seeing too is like, even with the little stickers or a little bit of contamination and stuff like that, right? Even when we're processing the compost, like we think that it may even need to be like screened through just to be like actual deliverable compost. We noticed that as well.
Yeah, do you have what size is your screen?
We don't have a screen.
You don't have a screener,
Yeah,
okay.
so we either have the loan one, so that's why we're starting from like the base
Yeah.
level and with really no money, so, yeah.
What has been your biggest learning in this process?
I guess, underestimating how much time is really needed, especially now when we're gonna get the recipe down to a real science where it's, 6 to 8 inches of wood chips, while we need more coarse wood chips, where can we get them? Are they easily, where are our feedstocks coming from? So I think feedstocks is gonna be an interesting one, especially with the dumpster, because now the idea behind it with manure, it was a very dry situation where you can almost keep things a little bit damper. It's completely opposite with food scraps because you're actually gonna lose all that water through the composting process, or you're gonna have more water to start. So we're actually doing like 6 to 8 inches of wood chips, then there's a dry layer of like 3 to 4 inches roughly, then the compost mixed with, the browns and greens mixed, and then a layer of compost on top. So that's, I think our feedstocks are gonna
Do you
be.
have any covering or anything over your compost bins or anything? I'm just thinking of towards the late end of summer, there were those torrential rains, like in September, that.
Yeah, so I don't know if you're familiar with Calverton, but Calverton, the wind there is brutal. For some reason, there is actually, it really whips, especially at the yard waste facility, right where the bins are. I actually went there today and 4 or 5 of the bins were flipped open with ice and snow and stuff like that on them. So I was actually even thinking from today, considering, maybe next year we don't do as much into the winter because it's just so much harder. Also have to winterize everything. So one of the biggest issues too was washing the bins. We had water right next door, but, with now everything being winterized, I actually drive the 64-gallon bins. I could load, take 6 at a time to my office, wash them, bring the 6 back, take the next 6, wash them. So it's, you know, when I have to do that, it's a whole day situation. So, yeah, that's basically it.
All right, I think we're gonna move on. We'd love to talk to Jason for the next 3 hours. Thank you.
Sorry about the remote.
Yeah, me too. It's gonna be on your bill. Sarah, you had, something to present today?
I don't have a prepared presentation,
Okay.
but,
No, it's okay.
Tim, do you wanna kick it off, or how do you wanna do this?
No, why don't you, because it's really, see what you can.
Okay. Is it okay if I just speak from here?
I think so.
People hear me?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Well, Sylvester Manor is a 236-acre historic farm and site here on Shelter Island. And I'm seeing are you guys hearing me all right? Should I go closer to the owl? You're okay, okay. And it has a continually expanding revival of agriculture that started in 2008. And with that is an ever expanding need for compost, for nutrients for the field. And it's been a very high cost item for us to bring from away. And so it started to always have been making compost to some extent since this project revived in 2008, 2009. But not keeping up with the needs for amending the soils, which, depending on which field and how long it's been out of production, were in various states of, really healthy soils. So add to that we live on an island, where the costs of taking, waste away are, even more than from the ports. And again, the shipping of amendments onto the island also very costly. So Christina Cosentino, who is the former farm manager, and now Ariel Gardner as the current farm manager, have been devoting a lot of resources toward a goal, which is to produce on island, on our farm, all the compost that we need, and that we can stop spending money and having the carbon footprint of bringing it from, from distant. Also, there's not a lot of, there hasn't been in the past when Tino was trying to source good compost, even from somewhere else on Long Island, but that wasn't so easy either. So it's nice to see that there may be these new supplies coming, but we hope we won't need them. So we have a CSA, and the obvious way to start this was to start collecting the food scraps from people that are already coming on a weekly basis to pick up their weekly share. And that's been going on since 2021. We've, between 21 and 23, collected more than 15,000 pounds of food scraps. We take, having done some research into the extent to which we had to be concerned about pesticide and herbicide use on leaves coming from local landscape companies, and being reassured by a former farm manager who went on to run Vermont Compost in Montpelier, that these things would break down through the composting process that we do. That process involves routine monitoring and periodic testing of all pretty in-depth testing to see what's in the compost piles, monitoring of temperature. So we had a remarkable apprentice one year who had been at Baldor doing their food waste management, and she came to do some farming and became our compost apprentice, did a tremendous amount of research, and produced a very good guideline for, everything from how many inches we would need on which fields, how frequently, by acre, by square foot, to how we could get to those goals for production. And that encouraged us to bring in a lot more browns. So we now have established relationships with local landscape companies that at their own convenience, have access to, the part of the site where we, ask them to drop their leaves. And we've been collecting these food scraps now for several years. This past year, in partnership with the Green Options Committee and the town of Shelter Island, we were able to, access some funds from the Climate Smart Communities,
Clean energy.
clean energy communities. That were, you know, these were funds that the grantor agreed were appropriate to use for expanding our food scrap production, because of course, we know that, the production of methane is, directly related to the issues of energy and climate change. So, with that money, we were able to expand beyond the CSA members, who have white buckets with lids, that they bring, then dump, and they either rinse them out there or at the farm or at home. And then, now we bought 100 green buckets with this funding from the town, and the labels that are on the buckets that, tell you what you can and can't use. Ours is pretty restrictive compared to what Riverhead was describing. I'm interested to look into those bags, but up until now, we have said no to, proteins, meats, bones, oils, and anything with a bag. We also, try to be strict about staples and stickers and all that sort of thing. So that was a great success. Tim, our chair of our committee, runs an annual Green Expo in August. And in the first hour of the Green Bucket launch distribution, we had 40 buckets adopted out of the 100. I mean, they went like hotcakes. And we've partnered with the library. They still have a couple, I think. People can continue to adopt these. And that was, that was towards the end of the summer that started. And it started a little slow, but one of the purposes of the Green Bucket exercise through the CSA season was to make sure that outside of our CSA subscriber community, people could get on board with the type of sorting that needed to be done and so on. And there was a tremendous amount of enthusiasm. That drop off is supervised by a volunteer. He's a CSA member, a retired community member, and he shows up every Saturday and just weighs every bucket. And he's just like the guy. Stephen Morgan is his name. And he doesn't want anybody to take over his, it's just people get really passionate about this. And he'll take the buckets and put them into the front loader, which then at the end of the day gets very quickly taken to the compost in the backfields. The capacity things are interesting. We were a little reluctant to expand beyond the season because we didn't have the staff or the volunteers to supervise drop off. And we were concerned that we were just gonna get all sorts of random stuff, and that would create a whole headache for sorting and everything else. But this year we kind of decided to just take the plunge. And in the first, many weeks of having unsupervised drop off, we got one plastic bag. And I remember I took your information from last year, Tony, that you really don't have that much garbage. You have to sift through a little bit, but people are careful, the people who do this. So we've just done a very quiet rollout of 24/7 bins. They're smaller than 64 gallons because our farm manager is a small person, and she bought toters that she could manage herself. So we have 2 bins that are out in front of our farm stand. They're easy. They're not, they're right off the road. And we haven't done a lot to announce this to the community, but at this point, we're accepting food scraps. You don't have to have a white bucket. You don't have to have a green bucket. I'm interested to borrow your image of all the containers that people use, Gloria. And maybe, and do a more concerted, I've asked Charity who's on the Green Options Committee, and the Shelter Island Reporter here to kind of feature that in the article about today, that any Shelter Island resident is welcome to drop off their food scraps. We're estimating the volume now and the weight based on the containers because we don't have the appropriate scale to do it any other way. So, there are all sorts of things we don't have time to do. I didn't have time to do a PowerPoint for today, although we have lots of great pictures. And we've submitted reports to the town to, to reassure them that their funds are appropriately spent on this project. And, we want to close that nutrient loop on the island. We're growing the food. People are using most of the food, but there's gonna be some ways to bring that back to us, and those nutrients will go back into the next. I'm really inspired by today. I've taken a lot of notes of ideas that might help us grow our program. And we are interested in, we were talking to restaurants, we're talking to the school, which has a limited, but does have a food program, cafeteria and kitchen. The Meals on Wheels, all of that is our potentials for expansion. It all depends on what our capacity to take all that stuff in is as we go. So this has been a great forum for getting ideas and hearing what works and what doesn't. So thank you.
Thank you.
I just put a bunch of resources in the chat, by the way, too. Links to organizations.
Is our highway department, currently we take all the leaves, all that stuff in the ground and we topsoil and compost with it. But at the moment they don't take food scraps because of the permitting process. But also we have an overabundance of material that the ratio of what we take in to what goes out. We have more that we still have versus what goes out. So I don't know if that's, and I don't want to get into it now because we have limited time, but, and I'm hungry that didn't come today, but it's something I'd like to sort of pursue more in conversation with you. I'm not sure how you want to do it.
Yeah, our highway works differently than that.
Yeah. So anyway, at the moment for Shoulder Island, such a matter is that.
Thank you, wow,
Who's next?
impressive. Tony.
Tony, go.
Tony is our.
90 minutes, go.
This is all very, very inspiring. So just to give you a little introduction, because there's some new people who weren't here last year where I talked at length, I'll keep it very short. Thanks to Swap and Shop, I've been a lifelong repurposer, a little too crazy about it. We'll find anything for anybody. 7 years ago, we started at St. Joe's Villa, ECI, and it is a food pantry garden. This year, we were able to give away 1,400 pounds to St. Rosalie's Food Pantry.
Fantastic.
This year, through Joe Lamport being my right-hand man with composting to an extreme, we started picking up all the New Moon Cafe's kitchen waste. We averaged between 200 and 250 pounds a week. We got over 7,000 pounds just from New Moon. And then our participants in my community composting program did another 7,000 pounds. So we're at 14,000 pounds for the year. And my yearly out-of-pocket cost was $300 for gas money for my volunteers who go around and pick this up.
Wow.
So you can visit our website, eci.ny.org. You can see our program. I use metal pails because after a couple of years, when the gross ingredients rot away the bottom of the pail, then it turns into a planter for the garden because it keeps the slugs away from the plant. And we just now have these metal rims that will last another few years before they go into the trash and disappear someday. So I use metal. It costs about $20, which the participant outlays. We put a couple stickers on it. We have about 15 people who come to the garden to record their weight in the book and drop their stuff. and no one mixes anything, we mix it. So we do a mixture of hot and cold composting. We do mix it at times, but lots of times it is a more cold composting venture. We do cover it from rain, and, I mostly use maple shavings from the cabinet maker. Jim Walsh, who sells his cutting boards at the Riverhead Market, has given me over the last 4 years, since I started this venture in March of 2020. He's given me probably 400 garbage bags of maple shavings, which I've repurposed most of those bags as often as possible. And the other great thing to use is maple leaves, much better than oak leaves. Maple leaves, KK's up in Southwold taught me, Ira. He taught me that maple leaves are his secret ingredient for composting when we started. Actually, he taught me that 5 years ago. And so I do a mixture of stuff from the sea because we are right on the bay. I'll take some seaweed out of the bay and I'll let it sit and let the rain wash it out a little bit. Then we amend, a lot of, mulch leaves, maple shavings, and a little bit of seaweed into the kitchen waste. And I mean, thanks to Joe, he's been absolutely amazing this year. I've only picked up from Newland twice. He's done from May 1st, every other pickup. And then we double hand screen, our compost. And we've bought a lot of compost. You just can't find the compost that we make. So I would say we're almost a craft compost. And I want to get more into testing. We're gonna start, spending some money with Cornell and Fedco, to do some testing, not only on the compost, but also in the garden. And, we have a mixture in the garden of 22 culture beds, and raised beds that are like 8-inch raised beds. And we try to keep everything in-house as far as using all the compost on site. We have bought quite a bit from Green Island up in Riverhead, the main compost that is being sold, that's amended with all those great things. We invested in a couple hundred bags last year to make sure that we were giving our soil enough, because I actually do not make enough soil, because my participants get a free bucket of soil every 3 months. So we have a program that goes 4 times a year, every 3 months. 9 months out of the year, you will get your compost, and then the winter is fallow. We keep everything for March 1st for the garden. And this may be a little bit confusing because I'm trying to wrap it up quick. I know that, we're about over, but I teach composting classes. I did one at the East End Food Institute last year. I did one at the Southampton Middle School last year. It would be great if I had put together a presentation of the stuff that we do, but I presently haven't had a computer for 2 years, and I like stepping back in time and becoming almost like a homesteader again, where I am almost never a need for a computer. But these presentations and what everyone is doing here is amazing. I do love the dumpster. I got great ideas for that. And we visited the big reuse under the Queensboro Bridge, last year, and they have a tabletop sifter. They're looking to move because they got a new one. So what they're doing in the city is absolutely amazing. What you started in Riverhead is amazing. What I'm doing is definitely, walking through open doors. Whatever's easy, whatever we can handle, we're just all volunteers, work on altruism, and try to make a good product as easy as possible. Let nature do the majority of the work. But we need to do much better than that. We need a commercial, industrial revolution for composting on the island where we stop the waste stream in its tracks. And we almost had Southampton on board last year. We're gonna be right behind you starting in West Hampton in May. But unfortunately, Southampton had a tremendous amount of trouble in their transfer stations. All their equipment broke at once and they stepped back. So I know how hard you must work at just doing what you're doing. And I understand why they stepped back. But we're hoping this year that Southampton does show a little more courage and get something going that we can, you know, put a real gold star on our cap and say, we did it, we started something. And that's our goal this year. Maybe get another restaurant, maybe to find a couple more volunteers that are passionate about this. I have two wonderful ladies who go to Southampton College, who have taken everything from the East End Food Institute for the last 3 years, which is just amazing. So as they move to Riverhead, we hope to do something on site up there so that you don't have to ship it anywhere. And we have multiple avenues of composting in town, which would be ideal. And yeah, I mean, I could go on and on, but this is basically in a nutshell how I've been operating, and it's worked well.
Well, Tony, as far as starting something, you started Mark and I off on this. We came to visit you and we were so inspired. And what do you have? How many people in your pay to sign up to be part of it?
Between 30 and 40.
30 and 40.
Yeah, and so
They pay
they,
about
some of
$40.
them drop off,
Yeah.
whenever they feel, and we pick up from 12 people's houses. 5 in East Quogue, 7 in Hampton Bays. So when Joe does the New Moon pickup, then he goes to the 5 people in East Quogue, and then I have Barbara who does the Hampton Bays, and then I have Ellen who does the college. So the college sometimes gives us a lot of material. So of course, the rule is always humans, then animals, then us. So Ellen takes a lot of it to the chickens. And I often feed my neighbor's chickens with all my compost, which is fantastic because you know how much that is helping those eggs. And yeah, as a side hustle, I'm in my 4th year of helping Bree Conti take everything at the Quad Beach Club and turn it into soil. So this year was no exception. We did between 2,000 and 3,000 pounds at the Quad Beach Club again. And it looks great. I just visited the other day. It looks great. It's going well.
Nice.
I'm just curious about the retention, the 40 people who pay. Are they year after year after year?
So I would say I have 8 people who have never left since we started in March of 2020. And then I have seasonal turnover, and then I have people who come and go. And that is, you know, probably the best way we can handle it because I don't have resources, I don't have outreach, I don't have administration. What we're doing is what we can do. So would love to continue to teach people how to do backyard composting, which is my passion. I feel it's best practices to keep things on site, local, no gas, no plastic. We have no plastic rule at the garden. And then just keep moving the ball forward.
How about your celebratory dinners, ECI dinners?
Yes.
On the Equinox. Can you talk a little bit about how delicious they are?
So
I'm gonna have to just run. I'm so sorry, I have another meeting. I forgot to say that the manor this year had an aerated static pile, which is like the other version of the dumpster. Just perforated pipe with a blower, a pile that's constructed all at once. The crew, the farmers went to the beach and got a lot of seaweed and had this just remarkable layering with manure and all kinds of things. Put a tarp over it, stuck a thermometer in it, and it took half the time that it normally would. Very little electric, which someday will. So
that's all you need to do, make it quicker.
yeah, the aerated static pile is a great technique, and I'm so sorry that I.
Bye, Sarah.
Bye. Thank you, Tony.
Alright, yeah, but farm table dinners, we do them 4 times a year.
It's up to 4 times?
It's always been 4 times. We've done 29 farm table dinners now.
That's our secret, because we're not here.
29. I know, we are the best secret on Long Island.
No, you are.
You have to wanna know about us.
We've got, we're kind of out of time here, but I'd like Beth, oh, you're still here. Oh, good. The Long Island Organics Council.
If we have time.
Green Inside and Out. I want to state their mission from their website. We are Long Island's composting connector organization, focused on facilitating relationships and sharing resources between individuals and institutions. I'd like to add that LIOC is also including information on grants at all levels for their members now. And between Long Island Organics Council, NFEC, and the Taking the Lead on Zero Waste, our 3 websites in this year will be providing probably just about everything you need as far as resources, whether it's the ILSR, Zero Waste USA, the New York State Association of Reduce, Reuse, and Recycle, the Center for Ecotech or Eco Technologies. So we're going to be pushing those out for everybody this year. And again, thank you to everybody for the collaboration. It's the sharing of knowledge that's going to get us where we need to go. And I've got another hour to speak, but it's Beth's turn.
Yeah, I tried to put all the resources in the chat. And, just wanted to mention, Tony, was talking about working on a larger scale. There's the New York State food scraps recycling law. So it's something else we've been looking into, that large institutions that produce more than 2 tons of food scraps a week are supposed to be either composting or sending their scraps to an anaerobic digester, or donating. Obviously, first is the highest use, donating for human consumption if possible. So we looked into it. We're following up with the DEC to find out how many of these institutions are actually complying with the law. And we were pleasantly surprised to find out that there's about 200 or so on Long Island. I think there's 8 on the East End that are supposed to be complying with this law. I know Mark and his team at NFEC are looking into speaking directly to these institutions to see how they're doing. But the DEC got reporting back from 126 of these institutions out of the 200. And we wrote back and said, well, where's the rest of them? We're still waiting to hear back. But they are actually complying. They're carting the food scraps someplace off Long Island. We think it's probably someplace in the city that they're being taken to. But, ideally, we'd love to see more facilities here on Long Island. It could create jobs, it could be a whole economic benefit, as well as for the environment. So we're working on it. We're funding, we've written to the Empire State Development, these are economic opportunities. So working on it. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Beth. That was the shortest 5 minutes I've seen. But you could have, actually, we're available to do more. So if any group or civic or anybody else wants us to talk for 6 or 7 hours, we have enough people to do that without a break. So we'd be glad to do that. We've been presenting to the Civic Association. So top down, bottom up, and middle out. So the bottom up is your schools and your residents. Thank you. But the civics are the channel that go between the grassroots and government and bring the information back and forth. They were the conduit between our representatives and our grassroots. So we've been leveraging that synergy for a very long time, and it's a very successful model where we will continue. And the last thing, I think, if you could think about the story that we're telling ourselves, and I wanted Jason to hear this, because I want us to set your head into 2040. And Jason's daughter comes to him and she says, Dad, I'm doing my senior project, and I use my digital history analyzer, and I found your picture in the paper about 15 years ago. And what were we thinking? Why were we not composting? Why are we wasting so much, Dad? That's what I want the conversation to sound like when your daughter is in high school. All right, I'd like it to be before then, but realistically, but these are the stories we are telling ourselves, and that narrative has to come from here, right? Has to come from all of this. So when we talk and when we share, these are the kind of the concepts that we want to bring to other people. I need to know if you do have solid goals and metrics to which to aim. We do now, and I scared some people. I scared the Solid Waste Management Committee, because if we are supposed to be reducing our emissions by 40% by 2030, that is 300 weeks. 300 weeks from today. And 40% of all right, so there's 3 million people in 2 counties. 5 pounds of waste per person per day. 10% of that is food. It's 750 tons a day, just in residential food. On our 5 towns, it's 41 tons a day. It doesn't sound undoable. We got 9 in Riverhead, we got 6 in Southold, we got 12 over there, we got 7 over here, and 1.3 over here for Shelter Island. You guys don't waste a lot. But unless we accept the responsibility for those numbers, it's not going to happen. So the 9 tons a day, yeah, all right, we did, 18 tons in 6 months. All right, but we're doing it. You have to do it in order to get there. Right, so I'm getting kind of crazy, sorry. What would zero waste look like for your organization? Would you be out of business? If nobody wastes any more food, Tony stays home. Right?
I'll stay busy.
No, I know.
I know.
Right, you'll find something else to do, right? And then what needs to be in place for your plan to be wildly successful? So we're taking all of this in now. I know Beth has met with, the people from the assembly. We met with Senator Palumbo yesterday. We didn't talk about food, but we will. I know Al Krupski's heard us for years about getting into Southold and creating even a climate smart community, green team, if you will. So I want, finally, our 5 towns will have a green team apiece that we could start working together and continue to work together. We'll have 5 town boards that are paying attention and actually acting on this. That we'll have 5 of our engineers, Tom Houghton from South, I've forgotten your guy's name?
Joe Benoit.
Oh, okay, I don't think I've met him, Joe Benoit.
Yeah.
Okay, your people from East Hampton, I know there's politics involved in there. You guys elect your solid waste person, we hire them. We elect our highway department, but you select them, right? Right, or whatever, right? So those things are always considerations. But what do we need? We need money. All right, so the EPA is coming at us now with a food scrap and composting food scrap. Food waste reduction has to be first. Reduction has to be first. And then reuse, making soup out of the celery, and then composting, which is recycling. That's what it is. It's not upcycling, it's recycling, but that's okay. We'll deal with it. It's the foot in the door. Everybody eats. 3 million people a day are eating on this, well, not as well as others. That's why we donate, right? What we don't eat, we donate. So feed yourself, feed others, feed the animals, feed the chickens, right?
Yeah.
And then we compost, right? Those are my only options. So what else do we need? Infrastructure, administrative, markets. We need to create markets, all right? We're hearing this all day today. Money and legislation. So with the TALS group, we're working on taking the lead on zero waste. We are working on all of those elements, all of those parts of the structure of these systems. And that's where we're going. So it takes all of us to do this, and there's not one size fits one. That's all it is. Your selection and your solutions and all of your problem solving is gonna be different, even within miles of each other. Right, so we're not suggesting that there's one thing that's gonna happen, and $1 billion is gonna solve all our problems. It is not. So that's why it takes all of us, and I thank you for being here today.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody.
And there's a New York State Organic Summit happening in April, so I put the link in the chat also.
Thank you, Beth.
Is that Syracuse?
Yes, in the chat, can you see the chat?
State someplace.
Aware of compost.
Yes, we can save the date, you'll have to save it.
So Tim has a question.
I recently became aware of a composting facility in Iceland that's been there since like 1982 or something. Somebody started it. And there's this whole plan to expand from the station, so it connects to the airport. And in the article I read, it talked about how it would sort of call more attention to use of this composting facility. And there's even a video of this 7 years old of this operation, which I'd never heard of, just from anybody else.
Is this the composting operation in Iceland?
Iceland, that's what he said.
Is that,
Long Island compost?
No, there.
No,
Yeah.
you're out of it.
I'll give a name and I'll put it out for all.
okay, great, great.
Are they just taking on the leaves and making
I
it?
think that's what it is.
If it's just taking leaves, then it's not a compost.
Yeah, I think, but I'm not sure.
Yeah.
And the other thing, we're supposed to have dry plastic bags, things, some things with material in compost. And then we follow some kind of machine to do another area. All the bags that have been shredded, and so they're also, the shreds are blown out of things, not wise.
No, Southampton, Bethany did it, if you're gonna bag, your leaves have to be in a bag.
Yeah.
And that finally got rid of all those bits of black plastic that were so invasive. At the train.
Yeah, no.
So most people use it.
We can continue the conversation. I'll invite everyone to join.
It makes it a big, it's like a big component of this.
You guys have.
No, I don't think that's a thing.
You gotta find that maple trees and don't have leaves. That's the one.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
No, plannings are. They're. Yeah. You notice one grows in there. So it's not that. And it's not that there is a balance. So I mulch. And when you process stuff. So when you take a process, whether it's maple leaves, oak leaves, whatever, and you put them in, it just processes everything differently.
So I have a lot of.
I live in Oakville.
I just Google it?
Capture the chat.
There's buttons. Hold on.